we're getting good at this stuff now.
It's
taking us.
You're really good at smart water pitches.
Smart water pitches,
Sponsored.
I think at this point it's just tap water in a smart water bottle.
Yeah.
I do have my coffee though.
Yeah,
for sure.
Hey, that's local from the Hearst.
That's right.
It is. And that's a good stuff actually.
Yeah.
I like their food a lot, and they have a ton of locations now around here.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So we have a pretty cool guest today.
Heck yeah.
Juan Damaris, and you might have seen him on Tucker Carlson. He's been on CNN. Although I watched that CNN interview,
Well, that's the one that sprung it all.
Yeah.
And everyone always asks me, why the heck did you talk to CNN? They're not your type of folks and everything. And I'm like, well, that's exactly why I talked to them. Because I knew that if I got into it with them on CNN, because I just knew our opinions were going to vary. I knew it, and so I'm like, well, then someone else is going to see this, and it's going to get bigger than it needs to. I think maybe like 2 days before, a CNN affiliate, a local Sacramento one, aired like a real quick one about me. Like, no, I'm because I was going to open up on May 1st.
Yeah.
So she wanted to call me before May 1st, and then because of that, Tucker Carlson called me on May 1st.
Because he saw that interview.
Right.
And I think he even said something about that. And he said, man, that's such a garbage deal that they did to you,
Yeah. To be honest with you, to be perfectly honest with you, I think the CNN one was good. I thought it was a good one.
I thought it was a great interview, but she obviously
I think she was holding back.
Yeah, but you definitely know when you're talking to CNN, they're going to take that story and they're going to use it.
Right.
Not against you, but they're left leaning.
They're
slanted for sure.
They want to make us look like we're a bunch of redneck idiots and we don't know what we're talking
Uneducated.
about. Uneducated. You're not even a medical profession.
And don't forget terrorists.
Right.
Don't forget that one.
Yeah,
that's insurrectionist, right?
Yeah, if she could, she would have called me racist. It's just ridiculous. But
so tell me a little bit about how'd you end up on CNN? Some people watching might be like, "Oh yeah, man, that's the guy," and then some people might be like, "Hey, I don't quite know the story here."
Well, so real quickly, April 1st through the 4th, Vacaville PD kept on coming to my shop because I wouldn't close down because when they said this, I'm like, no way, this is not right. There's no one dead on the streets. This is not a pandemic. I think we're getting played. Like I was a highway patrolman before, I was a Marine before, so I could kind of. I'm not saying that the training made me like a know-it-all, but I'm like, this isn't adding up.
You have a pretty good sense.
Right. Yeah, they give us a good sense of what's going on. I've seen things that when they go bad, and that it wasn't bad. So, but I definitely wasn't trying to like raise a flag and be like, F you guys, I'm here. No, we were like super quiet. We ordered blinds really quick. We were trying to be
undercover brother.
We were trying to be cool, but dude, every single nail salon, barbershop in our town started telling on us. And it wasn't even like, the good citizens of Vacaville. It was like fellow shop owners.
I want to talk about that for a second.
Well, the problem is because they don't have any courage or any moral fortitude in themselves to stay open and see what it is. And so when they see someone that does, it's like, oh, let's attack.
Well, yeah, it threatens them. It questions their move. Which a lot of people don't want to be threatened.
I hate that.
You think
I hate
deep
that
down,
worse even than the government bothering you.
Me too. Yeah. And we talked
Fellow
about this,
citizens.
Woody, where I said, man, this is a real Gestapo ride. This is the stuff that scares me. And it's eerily, reminiscent of history here. It's not the government. It's not the police, the patrols coming to get you. It's your fellow citizens.
Well, the thing about this, especially now that we can look back at it now, the thing is the government was just like, let's just throw this out there and see what happens. And it was the citizens.
They ran with it.
That ran away with it. And no one was, especially at the time, no one had the mental fortitude to be like, whoa, guys, like, we have rights. We're free men. We're free women. This shouldn't be happening.
Right.
And no one would say it. And like I said, on some level, I was even trying to be quiet about it, right? Because, COVID, right away, I even told everyone, I'm like, this is just the flu, guys.
Yeah.
People die, especially old people, they die.
And maybe a worse version, maybe a version that affects a little bit differently, different symptoms,
It's just an unknown version.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an unknown version. And so I'm like, I wasn't trying to be an ultra a-hole, but I'm like, okay, let's just chill. But we still got to make a living. Like my guys are all young fathers. They're all young mothers. You know what I mean? Like they're young people that, and we don't pay into unemployment. We don't pay into Social Security.
Right.
We don't pay, so we have zero coming to us, nothing.
Yeah.
We have
Right.
no benefits, and we couldn't go to the unemployment office. We didn't get fired. We didn't have an employer.
Sure,
We're independent contractors.
Right.
And people will say, "Oh, there's these loans and there's government programs, that you can do," and that's all great. But at the end of the day, that money runs out.
Well, first
It
of all, I don't know one single barber or salon girl that got. So I think August 14th was when barber salons, nail technicians finally got some sort of like help, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh shoot, you guys aren't on the unemployment thing. Let's help you. Here's $167 a week, and that's it. We don't care if you have 20 kids, one kid, no kid.
Sure.
It's 167. Who can live on $167?
Can't even buy groceries.
You can't even, and then on top of that, you couldn't qualify for food stamps. You can't get. There's zero help.
So there's really no hope. So they tell you, hey, you know what? Depending on the government, there's programs out there for you, but there's really not.
There's not.
And at the end of the day, even if there was, I think they are attacking our soul, right? The part of our soul that says, hey, you know what? I want to go to work. I want to make a living. I don't want to depend on the government.
Right.
Well, and I think that's what's so disturbing about when it's citizen against citizen. Because it's, wait a second, we're all supposed to believe in our freedoms and uphold each other to that and not be tattling and going, well, big brother, come look over here. It's like, no. It should not be that way.
I got Jews in my basement over here, and it's like, people hate when we draw the contrast or the comparison, I guess, to Nazi Germany, but this is a playbook. They're following the exact same playbook, just because we don't have uniformed military, SS, walking around, going to shops,
Well,
why do they need it when he's getting ratted on?
And that's the difference.
Absolutely.
That's the difference. Like everyone in Vacaville got to see that played out. Vacaville PD came into my shop like 3 or 4 times. At first they were super cool. Like, hey guys, we're just supposed to tell you, we're educating you. I'm like, hey man, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it. Everyone knows I'm like the most law enforcement, military friendly business in the area.
Sure.
We cater to more cops, firemen, military than any other shop. I mean, that's what we do. That's our niche, right?
Sure.
And Travis Air Force Base is right there.
Perfect.
And so these guys are still coming in getting haircuts on the low, just like we're giving them to them on the low. And then, on duty, they're coming in. They're like, hey, dude, sorry, bro. I'm like, hey, man, thanks for coming. Like, it's just education. There's no enforcement behind it. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. So I think I did that one too many times. And finally, a captain came in. This is probably like April 6th. Mm-hmm. We're into it, into the actual shutdown. And he's like, hey, man, if you don't shut down, I'm going to figure out a way to get misdemeanors. You're all over the radar. Everyone in town hall is like talking about you. Like, and I'm like, hey, like we're trying to be quiet. We're trying to be cool. Like everyone. Like,
now, was he cool by the time he came in, or by that point he was like, no?
He wasn't trying to be cool. And I told him like, hey, Captain, and his name was Matt Lyden. I'm like, hey, dude, I did the same job you did before. Like I appreciate it. I respect cops. And I'm like, who do you think's giving all your guys haircuts right now? Yeah. And he's like, well, that's another issue. I'm like, it is. It's the same issue. You guys get to go home. You guys get to get your paychecks. Yeah. You guys.
Have you missed a check?
No, they haven't missed anything, right? Yeah. And so then on top of it, I'm like, hey, man, and I told him this specifically. I'm like, when I swore the oath of office, it was to the Constitution. It wasn't to the governor. It wasn't to the mayor of Vacaville.
To my boss.
It wasn't to, Captain Lyden. It was to uphold the Constitution. And constitutionally, I'm allowed to make a living. Yeah. And I'm going to provide for no one's going to tell me I can't provide for my family. No one's going to tell me that.
Beautifully said.
I've earned that. I've earned that right.
I hate that essential, non-essential thing.
Right.
That they were saying that this business is essential.
I don't even think you have to earn that right. I think that's a right that's God-given from birth.
Right.
So it's not.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I earned it by being born on American soil.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So I'm an American, and this Constitution covers me, and everything else is like void until you make. And that's another problem with me that I see is that Governor Newsom has had, let's call it the first month. Okay, you got a month of emergency powers, fine, whatever. Give up, but once you give someone emergency powers, they don't want to give it back.
That's the thing about government.
It's the thing, once you give it, they don't want to give it back. And then,
nothing's
so it's like,
temporary.
well, then you've had over a year now to create legislation, and guess what? There's still no legislation created. You know why? Because it's bull.
Yeah.
Because it's not constitutional. It's not sound.
We can say bullshit on here.
Yeah, it's bullshit. There's no sound reason to create legislation to like.
Well, and I've been saying that from the beginning. A blanket shutdown. Everybody could have come up with that plan.
Right.
And there is a difference. There's, from coming from the firefighter world. People want to hand off that state of emergency because all the responsibility rides on now that incident command post. That's a ton of pressure. That incident commander doesn't take it lightly. Am I moving people out of their homes or not? For some reason, there's a huge disconnect with Newsom. And it's always that. And the question I wanted to ask, did you have anyone die from your shop?
Nope.
You were open through the thick of it.
The entire time. We haven't closed one day.
In a pretty
Right.
big town.
So-
Vacaville's a lot bigger than here, you know.
Right.
More
And we're
populated.
still open. We're still open. We're still cutting.
And now you have a shop in Vacaville, a shop in Wairika.
Dixon and Winters.
Okay, perfect.
So I have 4 shops. I've opened those shops in under 4 years.
Good job.
So and that's another thing. This is a huge investment. Like I didn't just open a door and not. I spared no expense. It kind of reminds me of this place. Like everything I did, I did it with pride, and I spared no expense because I wanted it to be the best shop around.
How'd you get into barbering?
It's the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
I just became the barracks barber, and then I was kind of good at it, and I actually made more money as a barracks barber than I did as a Marine.
As a Marine.
No, seriously. At first,
That's not surprising.
At first,
great.
I was I was a young boot, and I was cutting people's hair, and they're like, hey man, let me give you a pizza or beer because we're 29 Palms. There's nothing else out there, right?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, okay, cool. I have a pizza beer. My gunny comes in like the next weekend, and I have like 26 packs of beer and a bunch of pizza boxes. He's like, what the, what is this?
Yeah.
He's like, you're supposed to have 1 6-pack, and I'm like, gunny, everyone's paying me.
Pay me a beer.
He's like, you need to start charging them a couple bucks and don't get the beer. So then I start charging everyone like $3, right? Giving them.
Well, that was back when you can go to Oceanside. Well, I mean, I'm talking about Camp Pendleton,
Yeah.
right? Or you go out of the town of 29 Palms and get a haircut for $4. You
Yeah.
know?
So I started charging everyone $3, and they still brought the beer and pizza because there was nothing else to do out there.
I gotta have the beer and pizza. If you give me the money, now I gotta go into town and buy the pizza.
Well, I was giving everyone
Yeah.
these terrible, find out where their cover is, and write to their cover, and get them to Monday, right? But then I just started getting good at it, and and then it became a big hobby of mine. I still did it when I was a cop. I got out, and then when I got injured on the highway patrol had to retrain me, and they're like, "Hey, what do you want to go?" And I'm like, "Well, what can I do?" And they're like, "Anything but be a cop." I was like, "You guys sent me to barber school?" I'm like, yeah. So I went to barber school, and 4 years ago I became a barber, and boom,
That's awesome.
I bought a shop maybe like 3 or 4 months before I graduated barber school in Winters.
Yeah.
I ended up changing like a water heater, and it was like black mold all throughout the whole entire shop. It's not a big shop. It's like 650 square feet. So I just gutted it down to the studs and redid it. And I'm like, wow, like I didn't know how it came out like that, but it did. And I'm like, I'm going to make any shop that I open.
And that's fun, right? You're like, man, I did something, you know?
Yeah. So I got a lot of pride in it. And that's another thing too. Like people want to say that barbers are not essential. We're the oldest profession in the world, next to prostitution.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not a good enough looking guy to shake my ass.
So is barbering for
I'm
you.
gonna do barbering.
The back room.
I'm gonna make some. And to be honest with you, I make fantastic money. I thought when I left the highway patrol that I'm like, fudge, I'll never get a job where I make that much money for such a fun, easy thing. Barbering blows it away.
That's amazing.
Blows it away. Like,
Well, I mean, Woody's been, geez, I mean, you go to Woody's barbershop any given time, and
I went,
there's not an empty
well, you know
seat,
what?
man.
If I would have known that, I would have gone straight out of the Marine Corps. I would have started opening shops. I would have had 20 shops by now. Just
People are
'cause
going to
it's-
watch this. We're going to have a bunch of new barbers now.
No, it's a fun career. You go to work. You have tattoos. You can grow out your facial hair. You can talk
what you want.
shit.
Yeah.
And you know what? The cool thing about barbering is that the guys that go to Woody's shop are the guys like Woody.
Yeah.
And it's like this cool little filter where you get to like, no one comes in that doesn't like you
Yeah.
or like
It's pretty
likes your
cool.
opinion.
Yeah.
So I get to be around cool American patriots, military guys, cops, firemen. You know what I mean? Like just good, good conservative
I think
Americans.
it's something that's kind of gotten lost over the years, but in towns like this, it's still very existent. When I was a kid, my dad would only allow me to get my hair cut at a barber shop.
Well, yeah, of course.
Because there's something cultural about it,
Yeah, there
there's
is.
something like, no, you're going to go in here and you tell the barber, all right, cut his hair. And JFK style was always John F. Kennedy haircut, and that was it. And I love it. You go into Woody's barber shop now, and that's a man's world.
It's a man's world, and barbers have their ear to the ground like no other, because we service.
Oh, if I want to know
everyone.
what's going on in this county, you go to that barber shop.
we service everyone, and
Which the sentiment you were probably hearing is, thanks for being open. You should be.
Yeah.
Am I correct? That's a fair assumption, or what were you getting?
So at first, after that guy, the captain came in, I'm like, hey guys, because my guys are all real young.
Sure.
They're not like me.
Yeah.
They're I don't know, more worldly, if you will.
Yeah.
Just younger.
Sure.
Guys that are
Different generation.
Right. And so I'm like, hey guys, you don't have to stick around. I'm like, I'll fight this and I'll cover. You don't pay me rent. I'll get through this. But my chair is going to cover my 3 shops at the time.
Sure.
So I'm like, just do what you can cut from home. I don't want you guys to get in trouble. So then, I kind of cut on the low by myself. And then, so the reason I did this was because there's like this little Facebook forum of like salon ladies, you know. None of them were barbers, and I just happened to be part of this thing, and they were just like, oh my gosh, like, and they were just ragging on each other. Like some people were like, I can't keep on being closed, you know, blah blah blah. I want to open, and people were like, you know, you want to kill my grandmother, you know.
I've killed a lot of grandmothers last year, you know.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And then they're like, oh, you know, like you don't care. And then there's other girls that are on there. This is what really tugged at me was like, I'm paid. This is my second month. I'm paying rent, and I'm not allowed to be there. Like I'm gonna lose my spot though. And so I kind of started asking these girls like, hey, why are you paying rent for something you're not allowed to do?
Sure.
I'm like, why are these owners charging you? And I'm like, don't pay them.
Yeah.
I'm like, when things are good, they don't help you out. They don't give you a piece of their profit, right?
Of course.
So when the risk is high, why are you paying for their loss?
Absolutely.
You know? And I get it. Like
You try to do the right thing. I think, you know.
everyone tried to do the right thing. You know, like these landlords, you know, are still want their money.
Yeah.
PG&E still wants their money. You know, everyone still wants their money. So everyone's trying to figure it out. And I just keep on saying, I'm like I said, I sat there. So like now it's like April 25th, and I'm like, this is not going to end. We've already passed the 14 days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Now we're going up on 30 days. Now they're talking about.
It felt like our foot was in a bear trap, and we're like, "This we're not getting out of this anytime
So
soon."
then I remember watching the news, and Newsom went on the news, and he's like, I don't even want to talk about salons right now. He's like, we're not going to get to salons and barbershops until about August. And boom, I was just like, nope, I'm done.
So you mentioned something in that interview I watched, and it makes a lot of sense. And we've been saying this already, you know, where with me with the bar and restaurant, you guys with the barbershops, you know, we're already held to such a high hygienic standard. You know, I mean, we get checked on all the time. The health department comes in, they got to check our facilities, right? So you're going to punish an industry or industries that are already held to a standard where cleanliness is probably far above and beyond any other industry. You know, why not start with the ones that probably need to clean up a little bit, and then, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not advocating they do any of it at all.
We
but
do 1,600 hours of barbering school just to get a license. That's 1,600 hours. That's 10 months of school.
Sure.
I didn't even do 10 months to become a cop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And really, they don't give one crud how good you cut hair.
No.
They don't care one
not
bit.
about
All
that.
they care about is sanitation.
Yeah.
So we're getting 10 months of sanitary training from the state of California, and then the state of California decides that the most sanitary industries in the state are to blame for COVID-19.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he tried to even trace it back to, it started in a salon. It started in a salon.
Yeah.
Like, come on. It didn't start in no salon.
What are you guys talking about? Yeah. And I mean, here's the deal is after the first couple of weeks, once we all saw that, shoot, this is going to be a long run type of deal, then we started to move to action, right? And this I think, is why we're sitting here today, is because everybody in this room, you know, Lani has a gym, you know, you guys with the barbershops, me with the bar, we all said, hey, you know what? We're not shutting down. We're going to stay open. And now what are the enemy, the opposition, if you will, I don't like the word enemy, but the opposition at this point is using against us is like, hey, you all did better over COVID, you know? I'm like, yeah, but that's because we stood up.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And then at some point, I stopped feeling sorry for the business owners that weren't willing to stand up. Like, oh, they closed. Nobody closed your shop. You closed your shop.
You know what we didn't do, though? I didn't ask for no PPE.
Yeah.
I didn't ask for no loans. I just took care of it myself. I didn't ask anyone. I paid all my bills on time. And my landlords aren't upset about it. PG&E's not upset about it. You know what I mean? So I did what I had to do to cover what I had to cover and keep my family comfortable, like I promised to do for them.
Sure.
Which is what, you know, a moral citizen following the Constitution, there's the picture of you wouldn't need all that money floating around from the government side.
Right.
Some people say it's too idealistic and we'll never hit it, but here's an example of hitting it.
Right.
Same with
And
me.
listen,
I paid as much as I paid my rent for sure, and as much as I could to my employees during that 1 month shutdown.
Yeah.
You know, and it floated them. It was enough. They didn't have to collect unemployment.
Well, we did the same thing, and you know, and here's the deal: there's nobody sitting here who's going, "Hey, you shouldn't take this money." You know, that money's that's our money. We got to remember that. That's our taxpayer money that we put into these programs. You know, so they're just giving us some of our money back.
Right.
You know, so I don't fault anybody. You took that money, great.
Right.
But at the end of the day, don't use that to hook me into this government system where now I'm dependent on you.
Yeah.
Indefinitely.
Yeah.
That's what we don't
absolutely.
want. You know?
Absolutely.
It's like they're talking right now. I just saw this morning that starting in July, the child tax credit, if you have kids under 7, you get $300 a month now.
Oh, is that right?
Just
Every
straight
month.
money?
Yeah, straight money. And if they're between 7 and 17, you get $250 a month per kid. So I'm about social.
Let me run into something by you guys real
so
quick.
hard. I can't even.
Yeah.
So when I was transferring from the highway patrol to becoming a barber, the state has like a system where like if you're injured, they pay you for 2 years at half your pay, no taxes, right? And then after that, they expect you to be retired. Well, my retirement wasn't even close. My 2 years was up. I literally was like, oh, okay, so now what do? They're like, I don't know. And so I went to like Social Security, I went to unemployment, I went to everywhere, and I'm like, hey, I don't have any money. I have 3 kids I'm paying for. Like, what do I do? And they're like, well, you don't pay into that, so sorry.
You're out of luck.
You're out of luck. I'm like, wait. You guys don't understand. Like, I have a house. I have all these, like, and I have no money coming in. I've been begging CalPERS to finish my retirement, but it's not finished.
Sure.
Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. CHP is like, you're not our problem anymore. You know what I mean? We did our part, right? And they may be right or not. So, long story short, I ended up having to go get food stamps. I had to move out of my house and move into a low income apartment where I was paying $1,000 a month. Yeah. And then thankfully at the time, one of my buddies, maybe like 3 or 4 months before this, was like, hey, didn't you get injured in the Marine Corps? I got shot in the leg in Iraq. Yeah. And so didn't you get injured? And I'm like, yeah, I fell off this building. I got injured. And they're like, well, you can get a rating. So I got like a 60% rating.
Nice.
So thankfully that gave me like $1,200 or $1,500, whatever it was.
And talk about that for a second, because there's so many veterans, including myself, that still haven't filed claims with the VA, because when we got out of the Marine Corps, I was still a young man.
They didn't even tell me about it.
And I felt healthy. I felt like, I don't want to go. And like, well, you're going to want to, because someday you're going to get a little bit older, and all that stuff in your head's going to start messing with you. You're going to, we've talked about this PTSD stuff, and you come from your line of work as well. And it's not till we get a little bit older that we say, hey, man, maybe we should start filing claims. I feel like... So for the veterans that are listening to this, who are like, hey, you know what? I've never gone and actually, gone through that process of filing claims and doing that. Tell me a little bit about that, what that was like.
If you don't utilize your benefit, then it's not a benefit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we earn those benefits. You know what I mean? We sacrifice a lot. Also, for the Marine Corps, especially, like if you're in the Air Force, you get out of the Air Force right now, you get a 0% retirement disability right now. Like that just means like you don't get payments or anything, but you're like, hey, in case something comes up, you're in the system, right? Zero, and at 0%, your kids still get to go to college for free. Sure. Blah 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 blah, right? But they don't even tell us about that. TAPS is, I think they
temp and tap, and
they're like, get out, and we're just so happy to get out at the time.
and nobody's paying attention, So for those who don't know, the Marine Corps sends you to this. I don't know what it stands for, temp and tap. Where about 3 months before you're ready to get out of the Marine Corps. Actually, no, it's about 6 months, right, before you get out of the Marine Corps.
For me, it's like a month.
They send you to, well, that's because you probably didn't pay attention and didn't go. But we send Marines through this, and what it is, it's a transition class, right? It's here's the things that are available to you when you go out. But like you're saying, none of us listen. You're sitting there, you're just like on your phone, you're doing whatever else, You're not listening to the actual information because you think, that stuff doesn't apply to me, I'm healthy, I feel fine,
But the point of the story was that so I got a small VA benefit. I'm in low income housing. I'm getting food stamps. I had enough money from my vacation time where I paid off every single bill before I got to this point, right?
Yeah.
So that next 8 months or whatever it was that I was floating and not doing anything before they sent me to barber school was the easiest 8 months of my life. Like I was living large. Like it was weird because I had all day with my kids.
Sure.
I had little to no bills.
Yeah.
And they were taking care of me. Like I was like, damn, this is so easy, right?
So it would have been easy to stay in that.
And it would have been easy to stay in that. I could have just gone to barber school, failed it a couple times. But then, I have like ambitions.
Yeah.
No, you got to try hard.
You have a thing called pride.
Yeah, I got this thing called
self-respect.
Pride. Right. And, I was embarrassed when I went to have to go claim food stamps. I almost cried, because I'm like, damn, like I never wanted to claim food stamps.
It's not something you should be proud of, right?
Yeah,
but people use that as like, oh, I got food stamps. I'm like, cool. I'm like, you know what? It should be a somber moment that you've gotten to a point in your life where, hey, you know what? I need some assistance. That's great. It's humbling.
Well, I definitely.
But I'm going to use that to.
I definitely paid into it enough, right? Yeah. So there was that in the back of my life. Sure. Well, I mean, this is a benefit that
my money
that I paid into, right? And everyone else is using it.
Right.
And I actually need it. So I need it, and when I didn't need it, I got off of it, right? Yeah. And so now I'm working. And so I've come from, and that's what this thing is about. Like, the left wants us to get so comfortable with their care of us that we hand off our rights.
Sure.
Like, hey, I mean, it's just the Constitution. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it's like you're saying, it's a lot easier to sit at home on the couch, and have all day with your kids. Yeah, that sounds pretty dang good.
Well, yeah.
It does, but it's not a good example to them.
No.
It's not a good example.
Oh, it's not good for the heart.
It's not good for the.
It's
I mean, we're men.
Yeah.
We're men. We're the providers. We're the protectors of our families.
Yeah.
And I know that's so.
What a toxic statement.
Yeah, what
that
a
is.
toxic masculine. You know.
I know a guy that was a pro baseball player, and he retired, and he went to another friend of mine, Alan Gill's got a septic tank business.
Yeah.
And he asked him for a job, and he's like, oh, yeah. And he said, man, he was the best employee. He was there 15 minutes early, half hour early, ready to roll. He goes, and after about a year, I found out this retired baseball player was getting like $400,000 a year retirement. Jeez. And he said, and I asked him, what the heck are you doing digging septic tanks, man? And he goes, hey, I got boys at home, and they need to see their dad get up and go to work. They don't need to see me in my fuzzy pants. Yeah. That's pretty noble.
Yeah.
What an incredible testament.
Yeah, and like men like that are getting more and more rare.
Yeah.
Being real, passionate about providing for your family is so rare. And we have these problems in our society, and you could point it back to these fatherless children. You know what I mean? On in every nationality, in every status of life, if a child is fatherless, there's a problem.
Oh man,
there's going to be a problem.
Sure.
And so, and that's another thing I can't stand about guys that don't want to take responsibility for their children and have their time that they're allowed to have with them.
See, now we're getting to the root of the problems,
Right.
because we're in the business, I think, in our country of dealing with symptoms, and by the time we're dealing with stuff, we're really just putting Band-Aids on issues that we're never getting to the root of. And we've talked about this quite a bit, Lani, on and offline about the deal with fathers and the male influence on children, and you're right, it's something that's going to be long lost here. I said this a time ago, and probably about 5 years ago, and people thought I was crazy. I said, we're going to come to a time in our lives where we won't be able to tell a difference between a man or a woman, and if we can tell a difference, we won't be able to talk about that difference.
Well, they don't want you to tell the difference. They don't want you. If you tell the difference, I mean, we're instantly racist. Somehow they're tying race into whether
into gender.
Yeah, into gender.
Yeah.
So everything, that's the very first, that's their go-to right now. You're racist. I'm like, man, you guys are going to have a hard time proving me to be a racist.
This is all by design too.
Yeah.
Sure. It's not like we just accidentally got here. I mean, the family unit's under
and
assault.
that's the thing too, guys. Like, if they did it this time, they're gonna do it again.
Oh, sure.
They're gonna do it again.
Woody said this the other day, and it made so much sense to me, because sometimes we get into this fight. I'm like, okay, we're fighting for what they did to us over the last year, but that's not really what we're fighting. We're fighting because they can turn this on again. Now they've created a switch. It's a light switch where they can turn it on and off anytime they want. So if they want to do this again to us next year, 5 years, 10 years from now, do it to our kids, Well,
I mean, and look at
it'll be easier next time too.
Well, and everyone made it so easy. The church, super disappointing. Like, how are you going to close your doors to your people? Why is a barber the guy in town that's leading the way? Why? Why isn't it at the church? We have these religious freedoms.
Pastors standing up, the old black robes.
We have these.
There has been
There's some crazy religious freedoms that we've had. This country's based on. They should have been the leaders of this. It shouldn't have been barbers.
You're absolutely right. And we've talked.
But they
about
made it easy. And so when the church gets persecuted, which is going to happen, right?
Sure.
If we all believe in what the Bible says is going to happen, well, they just that's a step to make it easier, because next time they're going to close down the church for 2 years.
Absolutely.
And then they're going to say, hey, no, just online services. And then they're going to say, hey, well, online services are no good anymore.
You're offending people with your message, and people don't,
We'll take your 501c3.
Yeah, and they'll make that a civil rights issue, because they'll say that it's inflammatory language. Somehow if you're teaching what the Bible teaches, then that's not in line with their agenda, and it's making people uncomfortable.
Oh, and then they're going to regulate them just like they do barbers. You guys want to preach this church? Okay, well then you need to have this kind of license, and this is what the sermon needs to say. And they're just everything they're making. The government has a plan, and the citizens are the ones that are making it so easy. And so that's why when I saw this whole thing going on in Shasta County, I'm like, dang it! I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you guys are the only county that's actually doing something. Like, I don't think any other counties recalling anyone else.
No, and I want to, thank you for noticing that, because we're pretty proud of that. We really are. I mean, I think we've taken a stand here, and we've said, look, we're going to make a difference. We want to create this blueprint for other counties to follow. We want to be the example, really not just for the state, but for the country to follow. But the deal is this, and I want people to understand this who are watching, who are going to watch this podcast. We're not where we're at in Shasta County because our supervisors got us there. And this is the narrative now. This is what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
They're saying we took you through this pandemic.
Yeah.
You know, we made it so that you guys could be open. You know, we set the stage for you guys to be able to do what you're doing. No, that's bullshit. You know, it's all in spite of them, what they were doing, because people like us said, "Hey, no, you know, people like you."
That's like what the governor. That's another good example. So May 1st, I went on Tucker Carlson, and I'm like, no, you know, a couple days before that, I was on CNN, and then I went on a bunch of local ones, right? And so, literally 2 days after that, the governor's like, hey, May 25th, we're going to go ahead and open up barbershops and salons, right? Yeah. So people think that it doesn't make a difference, right? But 3 or 4 days before I went on, he was saying, we're not even going to look at it until August. Right. And then when people see it and the pressure and like the popularity of it, like, oh my gosh, this guy's taking on the governor, right? So, and you know, you start throwing around things like, hey, that's unconstitutional. That's unconstitutional. We're free men. We're free. And they're like, oh crud, like let's try to like, okay, let's make it look like I gave
exactly.
Like I'm helping them out.
I said this the other day. So I got the first day permit in the state for an event for alcohol license, you know, for the Red Bluff Roundup. And I'm arguably, again, in the bar business, the only guy that went head to head, or the first guy to go head to head with the governor. You know, literally when he called up here, you know, he was looking for me. They said, I want him. I want Carlos Zapata criminally prosecuted if he stays open. I told him screw himself. You know, I'm not gonna abide. I'm gonna stay open. My employees need to work. I need to provide for my family. So a lot like the stories here in this room. But I was also the first one to get a day permit, and I think it was the same thing. It was they knew we were going to do it anyway, so they wanted to be able to say.
He got tired of getting made out to be a jackwagon, so
so they wanted to give me permission. Hey, no, I gave Carlos permission, right? I gave Primo's Barbershop permission to stay open. You know.
Well, and I want to speak to that because that is what the opposition's saying here locally about the recall, right? As well, the supervisors, they took us through it, and well, look, they didn't enforce it. Are you kidding me? So now you're saying we should reward leaders that are just apathetic and just say, well, I'm not going to listen to them. I'm just going to stand in the middle and be blah.
They did not enforce it because anything about them. It was because law enforcement.
It was unenforceable.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Exactly. So I just hate that of the opposition, because it's such a short-sighted way of looking at it. Yeah. And I'm not going to succumb.
Well, here's
to that.
the problem with that.
Juan was in a tougher area.
Yeah, we're in a different area. So
culturally,
Vacaville PD came in, and so a lot of people don't know the backstory. I was friendly with the mayor of Vacaville, and I'm like, hey, Ron, I'm going to open. I already went on the news, said I'm going to open. I'm going to open. I know I'm not trying to rub you guys the wrong way. You guys do whatever you have to do. I understand, but I'm not afraid, and I'm just going to be open. So May 1st, he's like, hey man, can you move it to a different day? Like, because that was a Friday. He's like, can you move it to Saturday? And then we won't come bug you until Monday. Like, I'm trying to help you out. Blah blah blah. I'm like, Ron, I already said what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. I put my name out there. I put a time frame on it. I'm going to do it. So you guys do whatever you got to do. I totally understand. I'm not mad upset at you. So then him and the police chief get on the phone with me, and they're like, hey man, look. We kind of like what you're doing, but we can't get behind it because we'll lose money from the state. Blah 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 blah. And I'm like, hey guys, I don't that doesn't concern me. I'm just open. I'm telling you, I'm opening my shop.
Yeah.
I'm a free man. I'm gonna do it. And they're like, okay, well, we're gonna send you a cease and desist, but it's just for looks, and we won't send any uniformed cops. We'll come to you on Monday. We'll leave you alone all weekend. Just tell the news like we're good. Like City of Vacaville's, wants to see small business thrive. Just make us look good, and we'll just quietly give you this piece of paper on Monday, and that'll be that. You don't even it's not even a real piece of paper. So then Friday comes along. Friday morning, I open up. All the news people are there. Yeah, I'm open. Hey, City of Vacaville's great. Ron Roulette's a great guy. I of course I love our law enforcement. I used to be law enforcement. Blah 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 blah. So they wait around because they're thinking the cops are going to come. Like everyone wants to see the scene, right? And it doesn't happen. And in my mind, I'm like, it's not going to happen, guys. But go ahead and stick around. Like more publicity for me, right? So maybe right around noon, they all like take off. They're like, the last guy took off. Man, I'm telling you, as soon as he turned the corner, that news van turned the corner, Vacaville PD swooped onto my shop like I was a criminal, like I was a felon.
Jesus.
I used to do felony stops, so
sure.
I know the difference between pulling up to the curb and
they're
like,
coming in hot. Yeah,
they came in hot. They got out with their uniforms, a lieutenant and sergeant or a regular guy get out, and they come in. And like, hey, you need to stop what you're doing. I need to give you this piece of paper. I'm like, well, I'm in the middle of a cut give me a second, right? So then I look at my guys. I'm like, hey, film this. Take pictures, right? So I finish my cut, and they're kind of like awkwardly standing there, you know. And so
That's hilarious.
well, because I know
I'll be with you in a
I'll
minute.
be with you in a minute.
I know for a fact they have no enforcement powers of this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if they do, they're going to embarrass themselves. Now they know they're on video. And it's unfortunate that this all happened because, again, I'm a super huge supporter of law enforcement. I used to be one of these guys, right? So, but I still have I wouldn't have done this if I was a cop, right?
Well, and I want to talk about that for a second because I hear this a lot, right? And maybe you're right. It's different up here than it is down in the city. So when people say, law enforcement officers, man, they're on our side. They'll never enforce this stuff. I think, you know, you'd be surprised. I think it's probably about 50-50. I think 50% of them will be for us, and then the other 50% are very career-minded and, you know, are about their own paychecks, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. But there's a picture of the same rights, you know, and you standing up. That's a micro picture of, hold on, I'm a free man. I'm doing my work here.
Yeah.
You don't have a ground to stand on. So now they wanted to reward folks like our supervisors who basically did that.
Well,
Same
you know,
thing.
the
You know,
crazy
we
thing
said, hold on, we got a business to run. And they said, okay, well, we'll just kind of stand here.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same illustration.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
you didn't lead the people to be free.
Right.
You took that stance.
Well, that's funny because most people don't know their rights. Honestly, like most people are like, oh.
Isn't that the truth?
Well, like, oh, probation came? Okay, well, they must be in charge. You know, like, probation has nothing to do with my
I'm not
business.
on probation.
Yeah,
No.
get out of here. You know
My,
what I
my
mean?
wife says
Yeah,
it all the
exactly,
time. You know,
yeah.
people say, "Hey, I just don't want to get in trouble." My wife says, "What do you mean get in trouble? Like, is there some corner they're going to put you in? Like,
Yeah.
like what's that
What
even
is the
mean?"
Dude,
trouble?
the best
What
thing
is the trouble?
Yeah.
Let's
best-
really define that before
exactly.
you claim
Yeah.
it.
You know what you know what I realized real quickly? The best thing that could have ever happened is if they would have taken me off in cuffs. I would have been like that
A martyr,
that
a hero.
Dude, I would have my GoFundMe would have gone to $1 million bucks in a day.
No,
And
yeah.
I was like, I'd pray like, please, baby Jesus, let them come arrest me. I'll ask my baby mama to put money in my books.
Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
I'll do whatever I gotta do.
Well, and I love getting this word out because it is like you get played like, oh, they're uneducated. They don't get the science and all this stuff. And it's like, come on. These are smart people. These are people that have been through it.
What's
that are
awesome.
standing on their own 2 feet.
Well, the FBI
and moving forward.
The FBI came into my shop 2 weeks
You
ago.
too?
Yeah. They came into my shop and I thought they were state board for sure because they're outside and they were looking. They looked nervous. Young lady, probably like 30, and then an older guy, maybe like he's 40. And they finally come in.
I wonder if it was the same ones from up here. Do they cover that area? Because
like a light skinned black girl and a blonde guy. Anyway, so he comes in.
Oh, you're racist. Oh,
Yeah, I know. He comes in, right? And they're like, hey, can we talk to you? Are you taking a lunch break? I'm like, I'm in the middle of a cut. And they're like, well, can we talk to you?
I'm
like,
working.
Well, okay, what is this about and who are you? And they're like, oh, well, I'm with the FBI and this is about, you know, the national state take, or, you know, like the insurgency or whatever. The
Insurrection.
Insurrection. Thank you. So this is about the insurrection. I said, well, that has nothing to do with me, and I don't have a statement for you. So if you don't have a warrant or you're not detaining me, then you guys can leave my shop. Thanks and have a nice day. And they're just literally turned around and left. But people don't know that they can do that.
Well,
Right.
they came to my
Why
house. I
were
told them
they-
the same thing. They came to my house, and I said, you know what? I don't feel comfortable talking to you guys without a lawyer. They said, who's your lawyer? I said, I'll let you know when I have one. You know, and then they were on their way. It was friendly. I wasn't an asshole to them. It was
No,
just,
and
you
they
know,
weren't rude,
I was
and I was-
respectful, and I think they probably did not want to be there. But then they showed up at Woody's shop a few weeks after that.
I told
That's
him,
that,
I said, hey man, we've got a way higher approval rating up here than you guys do, just so you know, And they were mellow though. They didn't.
Yeah,
push
man. Like,
anything.
They were fine,
my brother Joe is he's a Marine.
and he's running for office, correct?
Yeah, he just lost. He took second place.
Okay.
So, anyways, he's a GS-15 with the Department of State. You know, high-ranking dude. You know, and so I call him like, dude, why would they? And he's like, oh man, I heard something about like a logo thing. So like, if someone was at the insurrection and they had like a Primo shirt, because we've pushed out millions of these shirts now.
Yeah.
Then they're like, they might have like logoed it and been like, oh, let's figure out what that is. You know what I mean? And they look me up and they're like, oh, this guy's an a-hole. Anyways, let's go talk to him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, maybe it was him.
This guy, the leader of the insurrection.
Yeah.
that's right.
I know.
So-
Little do we know. So tell us what happened in the end.
Oh, so Vacaville PD came in, and so basically the mayor and the chief of police lied to me. So I text the mayor. I'm like, hey, dude, and I sent him the picture that we took. I'm like, these guys just came in. He's like, well, were they polite? I'm like, what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah.
You know? And he's like, well, and so then Vacaville, the city of Vacaville, put the cease and desist order on Facebook and a link to it, and then they sent it out to every news station in the surrounding area. So they did it like they were like, probably got a call from lieutenant. Hey, it's served. Boom, it went out, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, I'm not, I'm not going to post this. Maybe I misunderstood, But then everyone starts calling me like, dude, you're all over the internet, Vacaville PD. I'm like, they're saying that they serve you a cease and desist. You're on the new, like the papers, like everyone can see it. It's not like a private thing, right? So then I post about. I send the pictures of Vacaville PD. I'm like, oh, this is what we get. Like, This is what's going on, right? Like, like you guys think that it's not going to happen, but it's going to happen, right? Everyone in town started calling Vacaville PD. They blocked up all the 911 calls. Finally, the Vacaville PD comes in like, hey, can you take that post down, please? Like, this got out of hand. Like, we're just the servers. Like, and I'm like, this could have been mailed to me by, you didn't need to do this. I'm like, you guys put yourself out there.
It's a spectacle.
And so it makes me look like I'm a non-supporter of law enforcement. It makes them look like they're non-supporter of me. So now it creates this like beef with Vacaville PD.
Well, this is what they want, right? I feel like they want to pin good people against each other, you know?
And that's the problem with PD right now. Like they're burning the candle from both ends. You got the regular people that just hate cops, right? Your BLMers, your Antifas, you're left. Just everyone hates the cops right now. It's a tough job, right? Yeah. But now you're making criminals out of good citizens, right? Yeah. And you're enforcing things like you're shutting businesses down, and you see it all over the news, all over the state of California. They're using cops to do it, right? So now, like good people that are the natural supporters of law enforcement, now we're like, you Gestapos, you traitors, you traded me when you guys are releasing thousands of inmates, and when these prisoners are getting money while they're in prison, and I can't get a dime, and so you're trading these. You're trading wokeness over me, over a guy who served his country, over a guy who stood online with you, not even a couple years ago, and you're trading that. Yeah. Then you know what? I don't support you. I don't support this.
Well, and don't play that victim card. Well, we're just delivering it.
Yeah.
Don't play that. I don't accept that.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'd rather you come in and say, hey, I really believe in this cause. I think you're making people sick. Here's your ticket. Here's your citation. Here's your punishment. I'd respect that over the guy goes, hey, I'm on your side, and this kind of sucks. I'm like, dude, quit being a pussy. Stand up for yourself. Exactly. And you know what? And your boss at the end of the day has to respect that. Otherwise, you have to go get a new boss. Right. And I understand. We all have to make a living. I get that.
Standing on principle right now.
Well,
you got to do it.
So, long story short, so that was May 1st. All the way till like September, I became like this. Like everyone was like, at first, everyone was like, fuck you, I hope you die. I hope your kids die of COVID. Yeah. I hope everyone. But then
much hate.
Tucker Carlson happened that night, and they put a picture up of the cops, and boom, it became like America. You know what I mean? Like, God, you're one of us. We want. So everyone started sending me like money, patches, coins. It was really cool for a minute, right? Yeah. And we stayed open, and everyone left us alone. Nothing happened. Now we're legally allowed to be open. Fast forward to September, and the state serves me with basically, like, we're taking you to court to revoke your license. So
tell me about that. Did they revoke your license?
Yeah. So as of now, I went to court like 3 times, appealed it, whatever. So as of this second, I'm not legally allowed to cut hair, and I'm not legally allowed to own the Vacaville location. I can still own my other locations, but I lost my Vacaville location establishment license. And I lost my barber's license, so I can't cut legally.
Well, I don't ever go into a restaurant and ask to see their license. I don't ever go into a barber shop and say, hey, let me see your barber's license.
Right.
If you give a good haircut, give a good haircut.
Well, that's what I said. I'm like, unless you guys plan on cutting off my hands, I'm a craftsman, and this is my skill, so I don't care what you say.
Well, and anybody can cut anybody's hair.
Right.
You just can't charge them, license. So you could just put a donation bucket out or whatever.
Yeah. So how are you going to handle it?
Well, I did do that. I went and cut for free in front of the city hall.
Yeah,
I love that. I did 2 days of free cutting. I made $5,000 in 2 days of donations. I'm like, damn, dude, I wish they would have.
I would get into the donation business.
I'll just do this 2 days. I'll just do this 2 days.
But good on people, right? And this is the spirit of the American person, the man and woman, who says, you know what, I believe in the cause, and I'm willing, to pay with my pocketbook to support a cause. And I think that's a fantastic thing. I mean, that's a great American ideal.
It's a picture of it's not the minority. Those are movers and shakers if they're coming to a free haircut and putting down dollars. At least they did that in support. And
there's all kinds of things. Like, I could sell Woody my shop, right? And Woody can own the shop, or I could sell my brother the shop, or someone could form an LLC and I could sell the LLC my shop. you know, and
There's a lot of ways
and I
around
could
it.
be a 98% shareholder of that LLC.
Sure.
You know, like, so, I mean,
Have you noticed that it's never the people who you look up to, right? I say this because we're under attack, and even in the last week, man, we've been under a lot of personal attack, not just for our organization, but on personal levels, you know? But it's never people that I look at and go, oh, shoot, man, that person's really successful, and I want their approval, you know, in my life. It's always the losers. It's always the people that don't have two fucking nickels rubbed together. Their lives falling apart. It's in shambles. Nobody likes them. You know, they're such a small group. This element of people who they must have all day just to be on their phones or on their keyboards, to talk shit.
They're bored.
They're bored as fuck. And here's the deal. It's never, ever, ever a person that I look at and go, hey, you know what? That person really has their shit together, and I feel bad that they don't like me. No. You know, like their disapproval to me is actually encouraging. I'm like, I'm glad those people don't like what we're doing.
well, you know, and the people that are good that do support it. I mean, like, so, like I said, we got probably like $7,000-8,000 in donations and blah blah blah. Well, so before September, maybe like August, like 2 weeks before I got served, I'm like, well, I'm not going to use this money. Like, I put it all aside. You know, I'm like, I feel embarrassed to have this money. I don't want to like act like I needed the money because I actually made more money cutting hair those months than I ever made, right? Because we were the only gig in town, right?
Yeah.
So we profited from that, right? You take the risk, you're gonna profit. So I gave all that money away. I gave $6,000 to this police sports league.
I did the same thing for our grand opening. You know, they gave me so much grief. I say, you know what? It's cool. Just donate everything we make.
So I donated it all, right? And so then we get hit with these things, and like people are like, well, just use the money you got for a lawyer. I'm like, well, two things. I don't need a lawyer because if I'm going to be in court and they're going to take it away from me, I want it to be me on the transcript that says, you know, fuck this.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not going to waste $20,000 for a system that's already rigged.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's rigged.
It's rigged. It's rigged. So I wrote down these words, not afraid. You said earlier, and I think at the end of the day, that's the message: is we're not afraid.
I'm not afraid.
You know, I'm not afraid to be personally attacked because I know that's a fight that we'll win. I'm not afraid to keep my business open because I know that's my right. I'm not afraid to be a patriot, to be an American, and to voice, you know, what I believe in. You know, and this is, I think, the message that people need to take away when they watch these kinds of podcasts, these kinds of messages, to say, you know what, we're just simply not afraid. What divides us, if anything divides us, what separates us from you is the fact that you're scared and we're not. Right. And I think they hate that. They wish. I think they lay in bed at night wishing, man, I wish I had the guts that these guys have. I wish I had that kind of moral courage to be able to stand up for myself, but they don't. So the easiest option after that, when you can't, you know, dig up that gravel in your guts, is to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to put you down for being different. Yeah. And that's a problem we're running into.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like this nation is built on rebellion. Mm-hmm. We're a rebellious people. We're a rebellious nation. And we're not going to stand. We're not going to stand, and we shouldn't. And that's our history. And people need to remember that
we're not under the queen,
brother. We don't need. We don't need tyrants. We don't need, and we're not going to stand for it. But we are rare. Like you said, like, you know, like it's funny. Like the people that I seek out now are like me, the ones who are getting shit on, the ones because those are my heroes now. It's not like the people who are super successful and have the connections that are able to brush everything off and keep on moving. It's the people that are struggling, and because those are the real Americans. Those are the guys I want to be around. That's the circle I want to be
And there's
around.
a lot of those business owners that have said, and now the supervisors are leveraging that as their case to stay in office. All these business owners that mustered the courage to say, I'm open. And now they're saying, well, see, we let you be open because we didn't enforce it. It's just such garbage. When you that's a dig on that rebellious free spirit that drives all of us.
The problem is that America as a whole as well, they have a 2-week attention span, max.
Sure do.
Max. Yeah. I mean, we don't even know about that ape that everyone was crying about a couple years ago, right? I mean, who cares about that? But man, that was like everyone's on everyone's lips, right? And no one cares that my barbershop is closed down. Really, literally, no one in my town has gone to the mayor and been like, "You got, you know, because of your cease and desist, you know, Primo's Vacaville shut down. How dare you guys? How dare you do that?" Because you know why? Because all the other shops are allowed to be open now.
Sure.
Right? So no one cares. Like they're like, man, I mean, that's cool. Like I'm sure the other barbershops that told on me now are like, damn, I'm glad he did what he did because we're cool now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh man, I wish I would have, you know, like, you know what?
They can thank you.
They might be like, Juan might have been right, but what he did was, he didn't do it the right way.
Yeah, that's what they say. Oh, trust me. Our stories are also parallel here, you know,
Yeah.
with the bar and the gym and everything else, you know, where, you know.
But I'm the only barber in the entire state of California. I'm the only shop in the state of California. The only one that's been revoked because of this, right? So I called Dodd. He's one of my state assemblymen. I'm like, so I call him and I'm like, hey man, so are you guys going to do anything about this? Aren't you outraged that one of your constituents has
got
lost,
singled out?
I got singled out. I've lost my business. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. You know, I'm a former law enforcement officer. Like, doesn't this doesn't this raise a red flag for you guys? Don't you feel like you should go to bat, go talk to the state board? And they're like, well, I mean, there's a process to do everything. I'm like, yeah.
Weak. They're so
I'm
weak.
like, yeah, I know there's a process, and I know that you're an elected official, and I'm your constituent. So there's also another process.
Yeah.
But you guys are unwilling to do it, like because everyone cowers to the state, man. I pray that this recall happens. I pray that Shasta County recall happens. And somewhere it needs to happen. It needs to stick, and it needs to you know.
It needs to rattle the cage.
Yeah.
And
It only takes one place. It only takes one restaurant. It only takes one barbershop. It only takes one place to sue Gavin Newsom and win. And then we all win, right? It only takes one county to recall these people who refuse to represent us correctly. It only takes one county, and then the dominoes will start falling.
Well, we're going to see it done here. I'm confident, you know. I mean, we're moving in the right direction. And I keep saying, even if the recall doesn't happen, which I really believe it will, we still win because at this point, they know they're accountable to us. They know we're watching them. They know that the power has shifted now from them to the people. But we have to get these recalls done because there cannot be this kind of action without recourse, and that's what we're providing. I think we're out of time now. Listen, I want to thank you, brother. I want to thank you for coming here, and
awesome.
Let's do this again soon.
Yeah, anytime. I'm down.
And
to
you
come
need
up
anything from us, you know, let's work together. I think
the state gave me some free time.
appreciate it, man.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Juan.